Hi, here we are again, Robin the Sudoku guy with a new tutorial. This is tutorial number 54. Now, this is the one of two tutorials of a similar subject. If you've ever done X-Wings, you'll understand this much better. If you haven't done X-Wings or you don't understand what an X-Wing is, my suggestion is you go to my site, go to lesson 22 where I cover the X-Wing. Now, this is a type of trick, as we want to call it that, is where you've got either this or that will mean the same number is removed. Now, the first thing we have to do is to look for an X-Wing, and today I'm going to cover an X-Wing where we're using rows. Now, in this particular case, I have put in the red squares around the X-Wing, and it's an X-Wing on rows. In this row, I've just taken, by the way, a part of a puzzle. In this case, we have a 4 and a 4. Nothing is in between. Down here, we have a 4 and a 4, but we have one extra 4 in there. And the problem with that is that this becomes what is called the fin. Now, this is how it works. If you find an X-Wing with rows and there's this one extra 4 in the row, we are going to look precisely at this block only, as opposed to an X-Wing. This is the block we're going to be looking at. If I were to say the rule, and by the way, I'm going to put up onto the screen the rules to watch for, and you want to stop the video and write it down, feel free to do so. But in this case, we found that this was going to be the fin. Now, the rule goes like this. Either the fin is true or the X-Wing is true. What does that really mean? Either this is a 4 or that is a 4. We don't know what's going to happen down the road if you go on with a puzzle. But if this turns out to be a 4, then that is true. If that is true, this 4 and this 4 can be eliminated. Removed. Because that 4 takes over. So it's not an X-Wing. But let's say it was an X-Wing. I'm going to put those 4s back in again now. Let's say there was a 4, wasn't it? Here, come on, show up for me. Let's say this turned out to be a 4. If that turns out to be a 4, that is removed as well, so we get rid of this 4. And if this becomes a 4, because it's an X-Wing, that 4 can be removed as well. And of course, if this becomes a 4, the fin 4 and the fin gets removed. So it's either one or the other. Doesn't matter which one it is. If it's a fin, that 4 went. If it's a X-Wing, that 4 went. But with the X-Wing, you can now, with the 4 there, you can take away a couple of other 4s in the column. Now, this is a feature that you've got to look for, and what I find is that you've got to look for an X-Wing, and then if you find in a row of an X-Wing this extra one, this block is the key that we work on, because if that is a 4, this is no longer a 4, or that one. Okay. Here we are back again with another example of a finned X-Wing using rows. Now, last time I used the number 4 as part of the X-Wing. This time I'm using the number 7. Now, if you look closely here, yes, it actually is an X-Wing from this square to that square to this square to that square. But, and this is where it's different, in this block, which I've surrounded with a red mark, in this particular block, we have an extra 7 in this row. Now the rule again is it's either the fin is correct, true, or the X-Wing is true. Now, So let's take, for example, if this was a 7, therefore, turned out to be, after doing the puzzle, this became a 7, this 7 gets removed and this 7 gets removed because it's in the same block. And this 7 is removed because it's part of the column. Okay? That's very important to know. So we can get rid of this 7 here, if this is a 7. But let's say, it turns out, after doing the whole puzzle, because I've just taken a section of a puzzle here, if it turns out that, in fact, this becomes the 7, therefore this no longer is the 7, but because that is a 7, this 7 is removed. Still part of that block. It's still part of that column. And so that's important to understand, that whether this is true or whether it's an X-wing, that 7 here is removed. That's it for today. Bye for now. Next session, I do finned X-wings using columns.